Hello and welcome back. This is video number 2, and you will learn how to test the speed of your WordPress site. All right, so let's go ahead and dive in. Okay, so there are 2 tools that we like to use that are free. You don't have to invest any money at this stage, and they're called gtmetrics.com. So the first one is gtmetrics.com. All right, so the second one is actually offered by Google. So if you go to thinkwithgoogle.com/feature/test-my-site. Again, that's thinkwithgoogle.com/feature/test-my-site. All right, so this actually tests the mobile site limits or the mobile speed. So you want to have an idea of how fast it is based on the desktop and the mobile site. All right, so that's why we use both of these sites. So going back to this site, what I did as an example is I went to Google, I found a website that is an e-commerce store. And that's what we're going to use in this test. So obviously in your case, you're going to want to enter your WordPress site here. Okay, so I did a search and I found a website that sells scuba gear. And it's got a huge blog with tons and tons of content, with a lot of reviews, a lot of images, and all of that. Typically, anytime you have a WordPress site that has a lot of images, that in itself will slow you down. So we'll talk later on how to speed things up using those plugins and other ones as well. Now, if you go back to gtmetrics.com and you enter the URL of your website here, and you click on Test Your Site, it'll begin to analyze your website. All right, so we're going to pause this video and let it analyze it, and I'll see you when it's done. Okay, so as we can see here, GTmetrix has given this website a C, which is not horrible, but it could be improved. So if you're at a C or even a B, the goal for you is to try to get at least a few steps better. All right, so if you're a C, try to get to B or A. If you're a B, try to get to A. Or if you're an F, try to get to at least C or B. All right. So if we take a look at GTmetrix and see why they say what we say, you can see that it says page speed. It's got an A on a lot of things, and it's got a B on a few things, but it's got an F on several things. So what you want to do is you want to take a look at the F. All right, so we got to click this here. It says serve scaled images. The following images are resized in HTML or CSS. Served scaled images could save a certain amount. Okay, so what they're saying is the images on the site could actually utilize a image optimization WordPress plugin. And we'll talk more about that in just a minute. And if we scroll down, it says enable keep alive. If you click that, the little arrow, it says the host uses Amazon ad system. You should enable keep alive. It serves the following sources. So if you don't know what that means, you can just simply click what this means and it'll tell you what that means. So in terms of practical application, we can definitely see that this site owner has a lot of A's on everything, but they could still optimize their images. All right. So we'll actually cover a lot more detail later. So we're not going to assume that you are the same as this website. All right. So we're going to assume that you might have gotten an F, which is fine. So we're just going through here to help you realize what the tool is saying. So this one says, okay, FFF, add expires headers. So that's actually just a caching thing to deal with cache, which we'll talk about later. It says use a content delivery network. So they're not using a content delivery network such as Cloudflare or Max CDN and all of that. We'll talk about that in the next video as well. But if we just go through and take a look, you can see this one got a C. It says minified JavaScript and CSS. So a lot of this can actually be done via a caching plugin, which we'll talk about in just a minute. So if we click on waterfall, we can see what is actually loading. So when you go to a specific website, certain elements of that website load first. So what they're showing you is what elements are taking the longest amount of time to load. So if you speed these elements up, you can save a lot of time and speed things up. All right, so let's go to timings, page loads, timings, video, and history. So these are actually premium things and services that you can actually upgrade to use. But for the most part, we just use page speed, Y slowed, and waterfall. All right. Now, oftentimes, the GT metrics system will say, okay, this is a WordPress site, and we'll give you information on how to speed up a WordPress site. If you click on here, it'll tell you how to optimize a WordPress site. So if we go ahead and do that now, it gives you a step-by-step guide on how to optimize a WordPress site, but we're going to cover a lot of this in the next video. So that's what you could use. And of course, if you go to thinkwithgoogle.com, you can also enter that domain here. Okay, it says your mobile site speed is about 5.5 seconds in the United States on 4G. So 4G is fairly fast. So the rating that Google gives it is slow. And it says monthly trends slowing down. And we scroll down, we can get an idea of more details, such as get custom fixes. It says page speed, avoid an excess DOM size. So you can actually, well, like what we talked about earlier, optimizing images. All right, so for the most part, this is what Google sees. Now, bear in mind that even though we're talking about engagement and how to speed the site up, you want to bear in mind that Google looks at this as well. And because they look at this, they are going to oftentimes base your ranking on your site speed. So the faster your site loads, the better you will get ranking, right? And the more engagement that you get, the higher ranking that you will get as well. All right. So now you know the two tools that you can use for free. Let's move on to the next video and talk about how to speed up your website by utilizing certain plugins. Okay, so now you understand how to show related posts, images, and other media to the person so that they are interested in what you have to offer. You're gaining their trust because they're staying on your website longer. How can we get them to go from the content all the way down to the comments section and interact with you? And that's what we're going to talk about in video number 6, which is hack number 2. Okay, so the first WordPress plugin that we recommend is called Replyable. That's REPLYABLE.com. Now, the reason why we recommend this is because if you've ever used the default section of the WordPress comment section, you'll realize that it's not as user-friendly. And here's what I mean by that. If you leave a comment, you're never going to know if somebody replied to that comment unless you come back to that page later on. But if you come back to that page, as you can imagine, that's kind of frustrating of an experience. Well, what's nice about Replyable is this. You can actually subscribe to people's comments. So if you make a comment, you can subscribe. So whenever somebody responds to your comment, you'll be notified. And that is why we recommend Replyable, because it increases that engagement factor. Plus, on top of that, when you create a comment and you get somebody to respond to your comment, you can actually respond to that WordPress blog via your email. So instead of having to go back to the WordPress site, you can actually do all of that via your email. So, in other words, it solves that problem in terms of getting people to come back and engaging with you. So, that's the first plugin that we recommend in terms of comments. The second one that we recommend is called Disqus Comment System. That is DISQUS Comment System. The best way, honestly, to get here is to simply go to google.com, type this in with the WordPress plugin keyword next to it, or WP plugin, and you'll find this page. Now, Disqus is actually commonly used, and it's a lot more dynamic. The way it's different from other WordPress plugins is that it allows your visitors to come and comment, but they can also sign in via other social media sites like Facebook and other logins. So instead of having to create, a username and password in your WordPress system, they can simply use one of their other social media accounts. Now, on top of that, it looks really beautiful in terms of the setup of the comment side, and it also supports what we call threaded comments. So as you can imagine, someone makes a comment, somebody replies to them, and then somebody replies to that second person. So you can't really do this with the default settings of WordPress. So if you respond to, let's say, the third person, there's going to create a little bit of interaction between those two people, right? And then somebody might come along and then respond to that third thread. So what this does is it creates more interaction, more engagement, and all that. So that's why we recommend these two WordPress plugins. Hello and welcome back. This is video number 7, which is hack number 3. All right, so in the previous video, we talked about how to get them to engage with you via the comments and get more comments. Now, from that point, you've got them hooked and they really like your website, but you want to get them to continue to interact with your site. So by this point, they are what we call warm traffic. They know what you have to offer, they've consumed some of your content, and they like you, all right? So at this point, how do you get them further interacting with your site? Maybe how can you get them to give you feedback on how to improve? And not just that, or what things that they like, or what do they want to see in your site in terms of content and other things like that. So in this particular video, we're going to cover that, such as polls, such as forums, and all of these little aspects will help you not only engage with them, but it'll also help you get feedback from them, which is a goldmine. Once you start getting suggestions and all that, you can sort of get an idea of the customer itself and how you can better serve them. The better you can serve them, the more you can create products and services surrounding that feedback, and you'll start being able to sell to them. And that's where the money is. All right, so let's go ahead and dive in. So before we talk about different plugins that we recommend, I want to say that it's a good idea to have a plan of action, meaning have an idea of what you want to do. Do you want polls for people to interact? Do you want forums? What kind of forums do you want? What do you want the forums to do? Do you want surveys? What do you want to get out of the survey? Or is it going to be a quiz? What kind of fun quizzes can you offer your visitors in pertaining to the content that you're offering? And based on that information, then and only then can you and should you really go out and buy a WordPress plugin. Now, in terms of forums, there are several out there. The one that we recommend is gravityforums.com, simply because they have a lot of features beyond just gathering data. As you can see here, you have like conditional logic, so you could do quizzes with this too. Now, one thing I want to say is the pricing isn't as bad in the beginning if you have one site. But if you scroll down, so I want to be transparent here. Most of them and all of them usually integrate into some sort of autoresponder or email system, which is great. But if you want to take it to the next level, see, you can connect it to Dropbox, you can connect it to PayPal and all that. But on Gravity Forms, in order to get to the next level, it's about $159 because the basic plan does not contain any of that. And if you want to connect to other payment processors, it's about $259 just to do this. All right. And you might not even have to do any of this. If you don't have to do any of this, just stick with the basic plan. But I also wanted to offer you another additional WordPress plugin that is highly recommended, which is WP Forms. So that's wpforms.com. And they offer a ton of features. All right. If you go to their pricing, and don't look particularly at the domain licenses yet, just look at the features. So for about $199, it's a lot cheaper, right? So instead of $259, it's $199 to get the full payment integration. But like I said, most of you are not going to need that. That's why I say make sure to plan ahead of time first and then go get the plugins. A lot of people make the mistake of getting the plugins and thinking, oh, this is cool, or this is neat, let's add this. But what ends up happening is you will get overwhelmed and you'll start adding all of these features that you may not really need. So think of the plan, think of the strategy first, and then go get the WordPress plugin. All right. So that is in terms of forms. Now, if you want to create polls or ratings or anything else, then we recommend a plugin that is actually created by Automatic, which is the parent company of WordPress. So it's a pretty much guaranteed that this will stay up to date. But it's called CrowdSignal Poll and Ratings. And you can easily get here by going to wordpress.org/plugins/polldaddy right here. And that's a really good one. Now, if you want to take it further and you want to do like quizzes and you just want one plugin that does everything, then this one here, which is called Opinion Stage. And if you simply go to this URL here, you can pause the video and enter that in, or just go to Opinion Stage, just type in Opinion Stage, WordPress plugin, and you should get this. Now, this plugin is really cool because it integrates polls, surveys, forums, and quizzes all together. So like I said, if you feel like your site's slowing down, you can install this one plugin and that's it. You can cover all of your bases all at one time. All right. So hopefully that gives you different options that you can go towards. Make sure you, like I said, plan ahead, choose the plugins that are right for you, and you should be good to go. All right. So in the next video, we're going to talk about how to build your list. So after you have gotten all this engagement, how do you get them on to your email marketing list? Hello and welcome to video number 8. Now let's take up all the information that we have taught you about engagement. And now the step is, okay, so they really like you and they want to know more about you. So in this step, you're going to learn how to get them from engaged visitors to turn into subscribers. And that way you can get them onto your email list and build a relationship with them. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about that. Now, before we talk about WordPress plugins and what you should use, I would highly recommend you figure out what email autoresponder system you're going to use. Now, if you already have an email autoresponder system, great. The most popular ones are getresponse.com, and then we have aweber.com, and we have convertkit.com. Now, there are many others, but these are the ones that we highly recommend. So once you figured out what email autoresponder service that you use, then you can look into WordPress plugins, because bear in mind that not all WordPress plugins integrate into certain autoresponder systems. So once you found a compatible one, then it's good to go. Now, in terms of how you can get them onto your email list, if you followed through the video course, up until now, your audience has engaged with you long enough to the point that they will want to know you more. Or so what you could do is a number of things. You could either offer a lead magnet in exchange for their email address, which is the most common thing to do, or you can create quizzes. Now, we briefly talked about quizzes in the previous video, but we're going to talk about it a little bit more in depth. The reason why quizzes work so well is because, especially if you create like a personality quiz or a really fun quiz, or if you go on Facebook, for example, and I'm sure you've seen these types of quizzes, but if you go on Facebook, you may have seen things like find out who you are kind of thing. So if you can think of something related to that, where you can create something fun on your site, that's actually a really good way to get people to interact and sign up on your email list. So if you do that, there's a plugin that we actually recommend. It's called Interact, and you have to go to tryinteract.com. It says you can make quizzes to generate leads for your business. What's nice is you can create these picture quizzes. All right. So one thing that we found over the years and tested was that quizzes, generally you want to stick with image quizzes because a lot of people are visually stimulated out there. But at the same time, you could use like textual quizzes if you want to, but you want to make it fun, and fun usually points to visual. So this is why we recommend Interact. They have a lot of other features inside of it. But if you go to Interact's integrations and you scroll down, you can see that it's already integrated with ConvertKit. Entreport's good as well. ActiveCampaign's good. And if we scroll down, we can see Aweber and GetResponse. And they're integrated with a ton of other email marketing systems and analytics, Facebook ads, and more. All right. So you want to see that. If you go to a WordPress plugin, you find out that it doesn't integrate into your email autoresponder system, you wouldn't know that if you didn't know what email autoresponder that you use. So for those of you who already know what it is, great. If for those of you who don't know, you just need to pick one. Now, in my opinion, ConvertKit is actually really, really good because if we were to look at all three of these, I wouldn't go with Aweber. Aweber is okay, but I would go with ConvertKit because you can do a lot more with ConvertKit. You can integrate it with a lot of other third-party systems. You can do a lot of automation. You can have rules, tags, and a lot more. And it's actually very easy to set up with ConvertKit. All right. Now, if you do use Interact, you're going to need to have the WordPress plugin, which is free. If you go to wordpress.org/plugins/interact-quiz-embed, you'll find the Interact Quiz WordPress plugin. So you'll need to install this, and then what will happen is you'll need to connect it to your account here, and then you can create the quizzes and then populate it and put it on your WordPress site. All right. So like I said, you can choose any other quiz builders, but that's what we recommend is to get them from fun to email list. Now you could offer a lead magnet, like I said earlier. If you do that, you'll want to use something like a lead page generator. In this case, we would recommend something like ClickFunnels. And this here is ClickFunnels. It's clickfunnels.com. And we like ClickFunnels because it's super easy to create opt-in pages and integrate it into your WordPress site. And it also integrates into a lot of email autoresponder systems like the ones that I just showed you. So this is a tool that you can use. You don't have to, but that's an option if you use a lead magnet, which is a freebie. So it could be a free report, free video, a free audio, or something intangible or a media form that you can give someone.